The first light over Orlan. 6 came in thin silver lines, sliding across the dry orchard and the bent metal frames that held the trees. The air smelled like dust and old leaves. Jace Harrow stepped out of his farmhouse and stood on the wooden porch. He took a slow breath, letting the cold wind hit his face. His heart felt tight. Today was different. Today, someone he had never met was coming to live with him. He pulled the strap around the stump of his missing right arm. It didn't ease the old pain. It only reminded him what the orchard had taken. His parents had built this land from nothing. Now it was barely holding on. Storms, market crashes, and the water authorities' high prices had pushed everything to the edge. The trees were thin. The soil was exhausted. One more bad season and he would lose the farm. He didn't want charity. He didn't want pity from neighbors who whispered behind his back. He needed a partner, someone who would stay when life got worse, not run when it got hard. That was why he signed the contract. Jace walked into the yard and checked the nearest row. A water line sagged low, leaking into the dirt. He pressed the pipe with his fingers. Cold water touched his skin. The leak was worse today. He tightened the clamp with his left hand. The tool slipped once. He caught it before it fell. Mistakes hurt more when you only had one arm. A low hum rose over the orchard. Jace looked up at the sky. A shuttle was landing. It dropped behind the ridge in a cloud of dust. Early. Too early. He had expected it at midday. His mouth went dry. He had spent his last credits on this one chance. He walked the narrow path toward the landing site. Each step felt heavier than the last. Gravel crunched under his boots. He had read her file many times. Skills, age, colony of origin. Nothing about her face. Nothing about who she was. He didn't care about beauty. He cared about someone who could live a quiet, difficult life on a lonely moon. The shuttle ramp lowered. A woman stepped out. She moved slowly, steadying herself in the lighter gravity. Her skin was soft violet, smooth like she had grown up under calm suns. Her hair was long and pale, falling down her back in bright strands. Her silver eyes were clear and calm. Her clothing wasn't made for farm work, just a short split skirt, a simple wrap, and thin ankle rings that chimed when she walked. In one hand, she held a small travel bag. In the other, a sealed metal case, the size of a toolbox. She held it close, as if it mattered more than anything she owned. She stopped in front of him and looked at the orchard before meeting his eyes. "You are Jace Harrow," she said. Her voice was soft but steady. "I am," he answered. "I am Lyrina, your contracted partner." Jace suddenly felt rough and unprepared. Dusty boots, old vest, empty sleeve. She looked like she came from a world far cleaner than this one. "You arrived early," he said. "I requested it," she replied. "I prefer fewer eyes on me when I arrive somewhere new." He understood. People in the village would talk for days once they learned he brought a bride from another planet. Lyrina looked over the weak trees, broken pipes, and fading soil. She didn't mock it. She didn't judge it. "This land is tired," she said quietly. "But not dead." A small feeling moved inside Jace's chest. Hope. He looked at the sealed case she carried so carefully. He had bought a partner. He didn't yet know she had arrived with a fortune that could change his entire life. Jace guided Lyrina through the orchard, unsure what she would think of the broken rows, the thin branches, the soil turning to dust. He expected silence, maybe even disappointment. Instead, she stopped at the first damaged pipe and knelt down without hesitation. "This is leaking at the seam," she said calmly. Jace blinked. "You can see that already?" She pressed her violet fingertips to the pipe. "It's obvious. The pressure is wrong. Show me your tools." He handed her the clamp wrench. She studied it, then held the pipe steady as he tightened the joint with his left hand. The clamp resisted. His arm shook. "Angle it," she said quietly. "Don't force it straight." He tried again. Click. The pipe sealed. Jace stared at her. "Where did you learn that?" "My mother repaired almost everything in our home," she said simply. "I followed her everywhere." Her tone wasn't proud or dramatic, just honest. They stood together, the cold morning wind brushing against their faces. Her white hair moved like threads of light in the breeze. She wasn't dressed for the chill, but she didn't complain. She only tightened the wrap across her chest and scanned the orchard again. "You live alone here?" she asked. "I do. It must be hard with one arm." Jace tensed. He hated pity. But Lyrina didn't look at him with pity, only understanding. "It is hard," he admitted. "But the land doesn't care how many arms you have. It only cares if you try." She nodded slowly. Then you and the land already understand each other. They walked to the next row, where trees leaned sideways, their roots exposed by last week's windstorm. Lyrina crouched to examine the soil. She dug her fingers into it and lifted a pinch. This soil holds water only on the top layer, she said. Below that, it's dry. That's been the problem all season, Jace said. It's not your fault, she replied. The moon's atmosphere changed. You're following old watering rules that no longer match the land. He stared at her, surprised. How do you know all that? I read the environmental reports on my shuttle ride here. He didn't know what to say. No one had ever cared enough to understand his land before stepping foot on it. They reached the small shed near the orchard's edge. Jace opened the sliding door. Inside were old tools, cracked pipes, and a few food crates. Lyrina stepped inside, her eyes scanning everything in a single quiet sweep. It's simple, she said, but it's organized. Jace shrugged. I do what I can. She touched one of the old wooden shelves. This place has history. I can feel it. He didn't expect that. Most people only saw weakness here. She accepted a strip of dried meat when he offered one. She smelled it before biting. The texture made her jaw tighten, but she nodded. It's tough, she said, but it's good. Honest. Her simple acceptance eased something heavy in Jace's chest. He noticed again how tightly she kept her hand on the sealed metal case. It sat on a crate beside her, and even while eating, she kept it within reach. That case, he said gently. Is it important? Yes, she answered without hesitation. More than anything I own. She didn't offer more. He didn't press. They stepped back outside as the sun rose higher. The orchard glowed faintly. The leaves shimmered in weak light. Lyrina looked over it all with a calm expression. This land matters to you, she said softly. It's all I have left, Jace replied. She turned to him, her silver eyes steady and warm. Then I will help you protect it. Jace inhaled deeply. No one had said those words to him in years. For the first time since the drought began, he didn't feel alone. He didn't know her past. He didn't know her secrets. But he felt something real begin to take shape between them. Something steady, something strong. Something that could change everything. The morning warmed as Jace and Lyrina moved deeper into the orchard. The sun rose in double arcs on Orlan, 6, casting long shadows between the thin trees. It made the place look peaceful, even though trouble hid beneath every root. Lyrina walked beside him with a quiet confidence. Her steps were light, but her eyes missed nothing. She paused at another tree, ran her fingers along the trunk, and tilted her head. This one is struggling more than the others, she said. Jace frowned. How can you tell? The leaves show stress lines, she replied. They grew too fast, then stopped suddenly. Water reached them at the wrong time. Her gentle voice carried more certainty than many experts Jace had hired before losing his arm. He crouched beside her and touched the soil. So the whole orchard is out of rhythm. Exactly, she said softly. But rhythm can be rebuilt. He watched her hair fall forward as she leaned down, silver eyes focused on the roots, her violet skin catching the sunlight like polished stone. She looked delicate, but everything about her behavior said otherwise. She didn't complain, didn't hesitate, didn't slow down. She was built for survival. A low rumble broke the calm. A hover cart rolled toward them from the ridge. Jay stiffened. Hemer. Lyrina stood slowly, her posture straightening. The hover cart stopped near them, throwing a spray of fine dust into the air. Hemer, a thick man with a sharp mouth and sharper opinions, climbed out. Well, I'll be damned, he said loudly. So the rumors were true. His eyes landed on Lyrina and narrowed immediately. Not with curiosity, judgment. Jace stepped forward. This is Lyrina. It's something, Hemer muttered. Didn't think you'd actually bring one of them out here. Lyrina didn't move. She didn't look offended or frightened. She simply watched him with a calm, unreadable expression. She can hear you, Jace said coldly. Hemer shrugged. Just saying what people will say anyway. People, Jace replied, should mind their own business. Lyrina stepped beside him. Her voice was quiet but firm. I came here to work, not to impress strangers. Hemer snorted, looking her up and down. You don't look built for work. Jace's jaw tightened. She works better than most workers you've ever hired. The orchard fell silent for a breath. Hemer's expression tightened. He didn't like being challenged. Fine. I just came to say water prices are rising again. And the authority might cut small farms first. Jace felt a cold knot form in his chest. Hemer climbed back into his cart. Good luck, Harrow. You'll need it. The hover cart sped off, leaving dust swirling behind him. When the sound faded, Lyrina turned to Jace. He enjoys making you doubt yourself. Always has, Jace muttered. Does he do this to everyone? She asked. No. Only people he thinks are weaker than him. Lyrina looked down at her hands. He saw me the same way people saw me back home. Like something to judge before understanding. Jace stepped closer. Lyrina, listen to me. You don't owe him anything. And you don't have to prove anything to anyone here. Her eyes lifted slowly to meet his. Something soft flickered inside them. Thank you, she whispered. They continued through the orchard until they reached the outer shed again. Inside, tools hung on rusty hooks. Lyrina touched a cracked bucket, then a stack of old pipes. This place feels tired, she said. But not defeated, Jace replied. She nodded. You've kept everything alive longer than most people could. Jace watched her carefully adjust her wrap and skirt. Practical movements, not self-conscious. She walked toward the small crate where she had left her sealed case. She picked it up with both hands, holding it close. You always keep that near, Jace said gently. Her fingers tightened around the handle. Yes. Is it dangerous? No, she said quickly. Just important. He didn't ask more. She wasn't ready. Outside, a soft wind moved through the orchard, shaking loose bits of dust. Lyrina stepped into the sunlight and looked around the land again. This place needs more than tools, she said quietly. It needs someone who believes in it. Jace looked at her, surprised. You think it can still be saved? I think you can save it, she said. And I will help you. Hope rose in Jace's chest like a spark. For years he had worked alone, carrying the land on his back with one arm, fighting storms, droughts, and corporations. But now, walking side by side with this calm, mysterious woman who noticed everything and judged nothing, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He felt stronger. And he had no idea the most powerful thing in his orchard wasn't a tool, a tree, or even water. It was the woman walking quietly beside him, carrying a case full of secrets that could change everything. The second sunrise cast a soft gold light across the orchard as Jace and Lyrina walked toward the western rose. This part of the land was healthier than the rest, but even here, the trees carried silent warnings. Lyrina crouched beside the first trunk she saw and brushed aside the top layer of soil with her fingers. The ground was cool on the surface but dry underneath. The water reaches the top, she said, but the roots are starving. Jace nodded. That's been happening more each cycle. She stood and wiped her hands on her skirt. We can fix this, but we'll need more water before the cuts. He sighed. That's the hardest part. They continued walking until Lyrina suddenly slowed, her eyes narrowing at a tall tree near the slope. She hurried to it and placed her palm against the bark. Jace, she said, come here. He stepped beside her. A crack ran along the lower trunk, thin, fresh, and spreading. His stomach dropped. No, not this tree. This happened recently, Lyrina murmured. Maybe yesterday. Jace remembered the sudden pressure shift, the strange hum that rolled across the valley the night before. She traced the crack carefully. If we don't brace it, the tree will split in days. Jace rubbed the back of his neck. The braces are old. I haven't replaced them yet. Then we'll use what you have, she said. Her certainty steadied him. She didn't talk like someone guessing. She talked like someone who understood the land's language. They headed to the shed. Jace pulled down wooden braces while Lyrina searched through dusty crates. She lifted a tin filled with thick, dark resin. This can seal the bark, she said. But it's too cold. We'll warm it. Jace replied, grabbing a flat metal tray. They placed the resin outside in the sun. Lyrina spread it thin with her fingers, her movements smooth and controlled. You've done this before? Jace asked. Not exactly, she said. But I know how living things break and how they heal. He didn't miss the shadow in her voice. When the resin softened, they carried everything back to the cracked tree. Lyrina knelt first, the sun catching the pale strands of her hair. She applied the resin slowly, carefully, almost tenderly, as if the tree were alive in more ways than one. Jace held the trunk steady. She worked close enough that their shoulders brushed, but she didn't pull away. She focused only on the tree. When she finished, she leaned back and wiped sweat from her forehead. Now brace it. Jace fitted the wooden supports around the trunk, tightening them until the tree stood firm again. They stepped back together. "It'll hold," she said softly. "You saved it," Jace replied. "No," she corrected gently. "We saved it." A warm wind rolled through the orchard, but underneath it came another sound, low, distant, unsettling. A storm hum. Jace looked at the sky. Clouds were gathering fast, building pressure and color. Not rain clouds. Stormfront clouds. The kind that hit hard and without warning. Lyrina tightened her wrap. "That's not normal wind. It's an ion front," Jace said. "It wasn't supposed to arrive today." "Well," she said firmly, "we adapt." They began moving quickly down the rows, checking the frames, tying loose branches, securing anything the storm could tear apart. The wind grew sharper, picking up dust that stung their skin. Lyrina kept pace with him easily, even as her skirt whipped around her legs. She didn't complain. She didn't slow. At one point, a sudden gust pushed her sideways. Jace caught her arm, steadying her. Her breath hitched, but she nodded and pressed on. "You work like you've done this all your life," he said. "I've worked through worse storms," she replied. "Different world, same struggle." Another gust hit them. "Harder now. We need to get inside," Jace shouted. Lyrina grabbed his wrist, her voice firm. "Not yet. One more stabilizer." They ran to the last frame as the sky darkened. Wind roared through the orchard like a rising beast. Together they tightened the final bolts. Dust swirled around them. The storm was almost here. Lyrina looked at Jace. "Now we run." They sprinted toward the farmhouse as the first blast of ion wind hit the ridge behind them. The sky cracked. The orchard shook. The storm arrived. And neither of them knew that this storm was only the beginning of the change coming to their lives. The storm hit the orchard like a living creature. Ion wind tore across the land, bending trees and shaking loose branches. Dust and blue sparks twisted through the air. Jace and Lyrina raced toward the house, fighting every step. "Almost there," Jace shouted. Lyrina held one arm over her face, her hair whipping wildly. Her skirt snapped like a flag in the wind, but she kept the sealed case hugged tightly against her chest with both hands. Lightning cracked across the sky, lighting the orchard in a harsh flash. They reached the porch. Jace pulled her inside and slammed the door. The wind growled against the walls, rattling the house with every burst of force. Inside, everything shook. The lantern on the table swung back and forth. Dust sifted from the ceiling. Lyrina pressed the sealed case against her chest, breathing hard. "You're safe," Jace said. "No," she murmured, looking toward the window. "Not yet." Her tone was strange, focused, almost sharp. Jace frowned. "Lyrina, what's in that case?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she crouched beside the table and set the heavy metal box down gently. Sparks from the storm flickered through the windows, casting moving shadows across her face. "I didn't plan to open this so soon," she said quietly. "But this storm changes everything. You need to know." With slow fingers, she touched the glowing lines along the lid. They reacted to her touch and unlocked with a soft metallic click. Jace stepped closer. The lid lifted. Inside were items he didn't recognize, but he knew instantly they were valuable. There were metallic chips, each glowing with thin threads of blue light. Stacked documents sealed in shimmering film. A long glass cylinder filled with seeds that pulsed faintly. And a smooth black tablet displaying a bank emblem Jace had only seen in off-world markets. "What is all this?" he asked. Lyrina looked up at him, her silver eyes steady. "This is my family's legacy," she said, "and the reason I left my world." She lifted one of the chips. "These are water right certificates. Not small ones, large territories across 3 systems. I traded for them when my colony fell into chaos." She opened the cylinder of seeds, letting Jace see the soft glow within. "These are drought-resistant hybrid seeds. They can grow almost anywhere, even here." Jace stared at them, stunned. "Lyrina, this is worth more than your orchard," she finished softly. "More than this entire valley." She wasn't bragging. Her voice held no pride, only truth. "And you brought this here? To me?" "I brought it to us," she corrected. Another blast of wind shook the house. Lyrina didn't flinch. She gently closed the case again and sat on the floor, her back against the wall. "My world collapsed," she said. "War, corruption. Families tore each other apart for control over water and food. I gathered what I could. Our real wealth, not jewelry or titles. And I ran. Jace knelt beside her. Why choose a contract marriage? Why come to a dying farm? Her eyes softened. Because your application didn't ask for beauty, wealth, power, or status, she said. You asked for someone who would stay when life became difficult. Jace's breath caught. In all the profiles I read, she continued, you were the only one who wanted a partner, not possession. So I chose this place. I chose you. A softer gust of wind brushed the house. The storm was weakening. Jace closed the case gently and placed it between them. You trusted me with this, he said. With everything. I trust you with my life, she said quietly. The house creaked as the final wave of wind passed over it. Outside, the orchard survived. Inside, something new had formed. Not duty, not contract, but a bond strong enough to weather storms far greater than the one outside. And neither of them knew that this choice, her trust, his land, would soon draw attention from powers far beyond their moon. The storm passed in the night, leaving the orchard soaked and silent. By morning, a thin mist curled around the trees like the land itself was waking from a long sleep. Jace stepped outside first. The farm still stood. The braces held. The repaired pipes had survived. The cracked tree remained upright, thanks to Lyrina's steady hands. He breathed in slow relief. Lyrina walked out moments later, her hair tied back, wearing one of Jace's old shirts to stay warm. She looked calmer, but her eyes carried the weight of the secret she had revealed the night before. We need to check the whole orchard, Jace said. We will, she replied. But someone is coming. Jace froze. How do you know? She tilted her head slightly. I heard engines. Not local. A moment later, the sound grew louder, deep, heavy, official. A government crawler and 2 utility bikes pulled into the yard. The water authority. And behind them, as if enjoying the spectacle, came Hemer on his hover cart. Jace's jaw tightened. Of course he'd show up. The authority inspector stepped out, a tall, thin man with a perfect uniform and eyes that scanned everything like property. Jace Harrow, the man said. We received notification of unusual account activity tied to this farm. Lyrina stepped closer but stayed slightly behind Jace. What activity? Jace asked. Water right bidding, the inspector replied. Far above your income level. Impossible for an independent farmer. Hemer smirked. Told you something strange was going on. Jace kept his voice calm. It's legal. We'll see, the inspector said. He glanced at Lyrina. And this must be the contract partner. Off-world, yes. Lyrina stiffened. Jace stepped forward. She's my partner. And she has full authority to act on this land. The inspector raised a brow. We'll need identification. Lyrina reached into the sealed case she had brought outside. She didn't open it fully, only slid out one glowing chip. A water right certificate encoded with her family seal. The inspector's expression changed instantly. This is a sector-level license. It belongs to me, Lyrina said firmly. And I choose to invest it here. The inspector hesitated. This was no simple farmer's trick. This was power, recognized, protected, and dangerous to challenge. Hemer sputtered. You can't just come in and... Lyrina turned her silver eyes on him. I didn't take anything from you. I didn't demand anything from you. I only chose to stand beside someone who deserves support, not mockery. Hemer fell silent. Jace felt a rush of pride, pure and sharp. The inspector cleared his throat. Since the license is validated, the authority cannot interfere with your purchase. But the board will review this. Let them, Jace said. We have done nothing wrong. The inspector studied the orchard once more, then gestured to his team. We're done here. The vehicles pulled away, leaving dust rolling behind them. Hemer lingered longer, glaring at Jace. You think this changes anything? Hemer muttered. Jace stepped closer. It already has. Hemer swallowed hard, then drove off. Silence returned. Only the soft drip of storm water fell from the branches. Lyrina exhaled slowly and lowered the case. You handled that well, she said. You gave me the strength to, Jace replied. She looked at him with a softness that warmed him more than the rising sun. With the water rights and the seeds, she said, we can rebuild this place. Not just survive, but lead. Jace nodded. We'll do it together. For the first time since the orchard began dying, he felt he wasn't fighting alone. Lyrina stood beside him, not because of duty, not because of contract, but because she chose this life, this man, this land. And far across the stars, unknown to them both, someone noticed Lyrina's license activation. A message pinged through distant networks. Asset located. Retrieve immediately. The future was coming for them. But Jace Harrow was ready. Humans always were. The orchard was quiet after the authority left. The storm water glimmered across the soil like silver threads, soaking into the thirsty ground. A soft breeze carried the smell of wet leaves and new beginnings. Jace and Lyrina walked between the rows, checking each tree carefully. The braces held. The grafts stayed tight. Even the cracked trunk stood firm, wrapped in resin and hope. You saved half this orchard, Jace said. Lyrina touched the bark gently. We saved it. Both of us. Her voice was soft, but steady. She wasn't the same woman who stepped off the shuttle the day before. She looked stronger, grounded, as if the land itself had chosen her. They reached the fence at the edge of the farm, where the view opened into wide plains. For a moment, they just stood there, breathing in the cool morning air. You know the authority will come back, Jace said. Yes, Lyrina replied. And the people behind your license, they might come too. She nodded slowly. I felt it last night. Someone traced the activation. Someone powerful. Jace tightened his jaw. Then they can come. I'm not letting anyone take you away from here. She turned toward him, silver eyes shining. Jace, I didn't come here to run anymore. I came to stay. He swallowed hard. Even if things get dangerous? Especially then, she said. My old life taught me one thing. Safety is not a place. It's a person. Jace felt his chest tighten, not with fear, but with something warm and real. They walked back to the house, their shoulders brushing lightly. Inside, Lyrina opened her sealed case one more time. Not to show him its treasure. He already knew, but to take out a small, simple object wrapped in white cloth. This, she said, unwrapping it, is the last thing my mother gave me. It's a seed marker. We place it only where a new future begins. She held it out to him. Will you plant it with me? Jace nodded. Where? She led him to the center of the orchard, a place that had always struggled, always failed to grow anything strong. She knelt, pressed the marker into the soil, and covered it with her palm. Now, she whispered, it belongs to us. Jace crouched beside her. His left hand covered hers, fingers rough against her smooth skin. This farm has waited a long time for this, he said. And so have I, she replied. They stood and walked back toward the house as the second sunrise brightened the sky. A soft orange glow washed over everything. The trees, the fields, the quiet path between them. On the porch, Lyrina turned to him, her voice low. When the orchard is stable, when life is calm, I want more than partnership. Jace frowned gently. More. She took his hand and placed it softly against her chest. A family, she whispered. Here, with you. For a long moment, Jace didn't breathe. His heart felt too full to speak. Then he nodded. I want that too, Lyrina. More than anything. Her shoulders eased, her expression warming into something fragile and hopeful. She leaned her forehead against his, breathing in slow and steady. This is home now, she whispered. It always will be, he said. They stood like that for a long time, wrapped in morning light and quiet promise. But as they stepped into the house, a small alert blinked on the old console. A message arrived from an unknown system, encrypted, marked urgent. Jace and Lyrina exchanged a look. The orchard was safe for now. Their future had just begun. But out in the stars, someone had found them. The story of the one-armed farmer and the alien bride was far from over.